Every human is a work of art. You've probably heard that phrase before, right? But what if I told you it wasn't just a nice compliment, but actually one of the most radical, maybe even controversial, artistic ideas of the 20th century? Well, it came from the mind of this guy, Joseph Бойs, who was, let's just say, one of history's most unconventional artists. So we're going to get into it. What does it actually mean to say that you, sitting there right now, are a masterpiece?
So the whole thing kind of blew up back in 1983. Beuys was on this live Austrian TV show, and the show was literally called Art or Schwindel, which is just perfect. A viewer calls in and asks him this super simple question. Hey, when are you going to take off your hat? And Beuys' response? It was completely out of left field. He basically said, I'm not just an artist wearing a hat. At this very moment, I am the art.
And I mean, that really is the question, isn't it? It's the same one the TV show is asking. Is this whole idea a profound revolution that changes how we see ourselves and everyone around us? Or is it just a clever trick, a swindle from a master showman? Okay, let's break it all down.
All right, first up, a hat and a bombshell. We're going to take a closer look at that totally bizarre TV moment that kicked off this whole conversation that's been going on for decades.
And you know, this wasn't just some random throwaway comment he made on live TV. We're talking decades later, and his own students still felt the need to come out and clarify what he really meant. And even today, you have contemporary artists who are still grappling with this idea, pushing it to its absolute limits. This one statement has had some serious staying power.
Okay, section 2. Not artist, but artwork. And here's where we get to the core of it. Because to really get why this idea is so powerful, we have to clear up a huge misunderstanding. You see, Beuys' most famous line, "Every human is an artist," well, that's not quite what he meant.
Right, so that clarification came from his student, Johannes Stütgen, and he explained that the point isn't that we're all supposed to be painters or sculptors, creators of art. No, the idea is way more radical than that. It's that every single one of us is the art. We are the artwork itself. And that is a complete 180-degree shift in how you think about things.
I mean, just think about what that really means for a second. It means the art gallery isn't some building you have to go visit. It's the street you walk down every day. It's the bus you ride to work. The masterpieces aren't hanging on the walls. They're the people sitting right next to you. You don't need a ticket to a fancy museum. You just have to look in the mirror or out your window.
Moving on to Section 3, Thoughts as Private Sculpture. Okay, so the big question is, how does this actually happen? How do we go from just being a person to being a walking, talking work of art? Well, for Beuys, it all starts inside your own head.
He came up with these two amazing concepts. The first is private sculpture. Think of this as the internal work you do. It's the act of consciously shaping your own thoughts, your beliefs, your entire worldview. But, and this is key, it doesn't just stay locked up in your head. The natural result of that is what he called social sculpture, which is the impact all those carefully shaped ideas have out there in the real world.
So you can really think of it as a two-step process. Step 1, you sculpt your own mind. That's the private sculptor part. Step 2, that newly sculpted mind of yours can't help but go out and influence and sculpt the world around you. Your inner thoughts literally begin to shape outer reality. If you need a modern-day example, just look at a movement like Fridays for Future. You have this powerful idea, this shared belief, that takes shape in the minds of thousands of individuals, right? That's the private sculpture. Then, when they all come together and act on that belief, they are literally reshaping society. That is social sculpture, right there in action. They become what Beuys would call artists of society.
All right, Section 4, the revolution of respect. Now, this is where things get really, really interesting. Because when you take this whole idea of social sculpture and you apply it to ethics, well, the implications are huge. We're talking about a complete revolution in how we treat each other.
This is really the heart of the whole philosophy. I mean, if you truly, genuinely see every single person as an irreplaceable work of art, a masterpiece, how could you possibly treat them with anything less than the highest respect? All of a sudden, things like war, injustice, inequality, they're not just political problems anymore. They become acts of vandalism against priceless art.
And this line of thinking leads to an even more radical idea. What if we replaced our concept of basic rights with something called Kunstrechte, or art rights? In that world, human dignity isn't just some legal principle written on paper. It's sacred. The human being, as a work of art, becomes untouchable in a way that's even deeper than the law. It's about protecting a priceless creation.
Okay, Section 5, art becomes a commodity. But what happens when this really deep utopian idea crashes head-on into the 21st century marketplace? I mean, can you actually sell a revolution? Well, believe it or not, some artists today are definitely trying.
Let me introduce you to the Joblin Factory. They're a modern art collective, and they've basically taken Beuys's idea and just sprinted with it, straight into the world of commerce. They're basically testing what happens when "every human is art" becomes a brand slogan.
And yeah, they do not hold back. They create this stuff they call flesh art. We're talking dresses, sculptures, even bags that look, well, they look like raw meat. It takes this big abstract idea of the human as art and makes it incredibly and kind of uncomfortably literal. And it leaves you wondering, are they making a critique of consumerism or are they just cashing in?
So yeah, the whole concept gets slapped onto t-shirts. They've got a mirror with Uncle Sam pointing right at you, declaring, "You are art." And this really forces the question, right? Does putting a profound philosophy on a t-shirt help spread the message and make it accessible to everyone? Or does it just cheapen the whole thing, turning a revolution into just another catchy slogan?
Which brings us to our last section, the impossibility of not being art. Okay, so after that wild detour into the marketplace, let's bring it back to the really powerful, inescapable core of what Beuys was saying. Because honestly, whether it's on a t-shirt or not, the final takeaway here is pretty mind-bending.
Okay, think about the most famous painting in the world, right? The Mona Lisa. According to Beuys' way of thinking, that painting, that's not the actual art. The real art was the woman herself, Lisa del Giocondo, the living, breathing person. The painting on the wall, that's just what our source calls an apparition relic. It's like a beautiful fossil, a record of that one moment when Leonardo da Vinci looked at another human being and truly saw them as a work of art.
So where does that leave us? What's the big takeaway? It's this staggering, revolutionary idea. A human being cannot not be art. It's not something you choose, you don't get a say in the matter, your thoughts, your actions, your very existence. It's all part of the sculpture. So the only real question left is, if you're already a work of art, what kind of art are you going to be?